Today we're going to have a look at assembling your Power Plus 50cc chainsaw. Always remember, this is a dangerous product, and so we don't mess around with this, but let's have a look what we get in the box. So I'm going to put the box on the floor and then take all the ingredients out. What we're going to look at today is a couple of things. Number one is you'll have your cover, remove that cover on your kickback, then lie it like this. Now we're going to remove the chain cover. So undo the two nuts that you see here. We'll take those off and then we'll expose the clutch and where we put our chain on. So you've got your little spanner in your kit. Do that. There we go. And then key thing is make sure that your brake is off when doing this. If it's engaged, it's just going to make it a little bit more difficult. Then there we go. You take off your chain guard and expose your clutch and this disc. This disc you remove and throw that away. You do not need that again. So make sure you don't leave that on here when fitting because it's going to cause trouble. So you take the yellow chain cover and throw that away. Now we can do two things. We take our chain. This is going to be the key as well when putting your chain together. Make sure that your chain is fitted in the correct direction, otherwise you're going to fit it backwards and it won't cut and you're going to think there's something wrong with your machine when actually it's a fitment problem. You will see that on your chain the edges, the sharp edges point forward, the chainsaw rotates clockwise, so we're going to put that around that way. So we put it around just underneath the clutch. There is a place for it to fit and you can see it'll roll. If it's rolling smoothly, that's fitted correctly, so that's what we want to do. Leave it on there. Then we take our guide bar, our chain guide bar. You can also see it'll show the direction in which you want to place it. So we take the guide bar, put the guide bar in place here, and then we can fit the chain over. The teeth come on the top. There we go. Once that's fitted in there, then we can pull the guide bar forward a bit, making sure that it is inside the guide bar. You can check if it's working properly, like now, if it's jammed, there we go. So once you've got it in the guide bar, you should be able to just do this. Now you know, okay, there we go, it's running smoothly. Hold the guide bar as far as you can, because now what we're going to do is we're going to put it back. You put your cover back over. Don't worry about setting the tensioner right now. If you have a look inside here, here is a tensioner which has got a screw on this side, which you can then obviously tension forward and back. So when you put the guide bar back on, make sure that it fits in over the two bolts. There we go. Now if it doesn't want to go in, it's because the guide bar fitting isn't in. So you can just check and then you can move it forward or back until it fits in. That's the key thing. Otherwise you're going to not be able to do this properly. And once it drops in, what you will do then is you'll just see, there we go. Once it drops in like that, it's easy to work this. I do want to make sure that that tensioner is in the place of the guide bar. There we go. You can feel that it's gone in because we've got the little guide bar for and the tensioner for the chain correctly. There's a hole on your guide bar that has to line up. So obviously if it's not going in properly, just tension it until it does that. So put our nuts back on, tighten up, not too tight, but just to help us, because we're going to just double check in a moment. We're going to check on the tension of the chain and make sure that that's done correctly. So here we go, just by hand. Okay, so now the cover's back on. Now what we do is we're going to have a look at the chain. So when you see this, I'm pulling the chain. If I hold it up like that, the chain comes off too far. That's not what we want. We want it intact. Remember, I'm looking to see if it's running smoothly and that it's in the guide bar. So back here I see that we've got a bit of a problem, so we've got to make sure that that runs smoothly. So what we'll do is make sure that we are correctly fitted at the back. That's why you must make sure that you put these things in properly, because if you don't and start it, it's going to cause trouble for your machine. And so once it's on properly like that, then you tension it, so you make sure it's running freely. So now I can loosen and then I can actually tighten this chain bar. So that's tight or loosening it. I can feel now as I'm turning the screw clockwise, it is tightening the chain on the chainsaw. And there we go. So what you want to do is you kind of want this kind of tension, right like that. and then you'll see it's not coming off the chain bar. That's really what you want, not too tight, so that you can move the chain freely. So now we're going to be looking at mixing fuel and putting in the oil for the chain. Two important things you'll see on this side of your chainsaw, so I'll turn that around. You've got your chain oil that comes for your chain, comes over here. Make sure you use the correct product, because you see that you've got 2-stroke and chain oil, so you don't want to mix those things up. So 2-stroke oil is going to be mixed with our fuel, which we'll do in a moment, and then the 2-stroke oil. So you open that up, and remember a couple of things around your chain oil. When you're using your chainsaw and you maybe going to cut trees again or cut some bushes again in a month or two's time, do drain the oil afterwards. That is key, because if you don't drain the oil, it does leak out, because it is a lubricating system. So we'll open that up, and then just pour in the oil into your chainsaw chamber. Obviously don't overfill. There's a measuring ability in there. Then you put that back, screw it down, and then that is closed. Now, for our fuel, remember to mix your mixtures correctly. If you mix too lean, you're going to affect your motor. Do not mix your fuel too lean. Make sure that you're doing the correct mixtures. Most of the 2-stroke is 50-1 in South Africa. So what you want to do is, you've got your little measuring bottle that comes in the box, and you've got 500 mils of fuel, so pre-mix, and then you've got different measurements. So you're 50-1. So let's do that. We're going to pop in some fuel right now, and then start this motor in a moment. So what we're going to do is fill it up with 500 mils of fuel. We then take our 2-stroke oil. Now this is 50-1. And you'll see on your bottle are different measurements. So that is just a little bit of oil. It's not a lot of oil. Don't undermix, but then also try not to too much oil. It's going to be too smoky. So once it's on 500, I'm going to have a look at the measurement on the other side, and then just top in. It's probably going to be just 10 mils of oil. Have a look back here and see that we're on the right line. Absolutely. Up and down, get your mix in nicely, oil mix, and then we are going to put fuel in. Fuel goes in the back. Make sure you don't mix the two up. No chain lube in the back and fuel in the front. So in the back is your fuel. We're not going to start it around the fuel. Obviously that's safety mechanism. So let me put the lids back on. All right. So now we've got our lubrication and our fuel mix correctly. Make sure you put the fuel cap back on. It's nice and tight. Okay, so now we're going to be starting our chainsaw. So what we've got here on this side is a little fuel pump. Just make sure you give it a few pumps to get the fuel into the carburetor. You have your on and off switch. Make sure that it's on. And then you have your choke. Pull your choke out. You can see it's clicked in. Make sure that your brake again is off. You don't want your brake on. Safe position on the ground. Foot in. Then what we're going to do is the following. You're just going to pull it twice. 1 and 2. When you hear that noise, now we're ready. Must push the choke back in. Now you're ready to start your chainsaw. There we go. There we go. If it's not turning, make sure your brake is off. If your brake is on, it doesn't turn, you're going to wear your clutch out. Brake off. Very good. Switch off. And then lastly, once you have cut, just check and clean your air filter. So it's the screw on top of your chainsaw. Unclip that. And then here is your air filter. It is a plastic air filter with micro filters. So obviously if it's dusty, don't remove it. Leave it on. Just clean it out with a cloth. Just dust it out. Make sure that you're free of debris. If you can, just blow it with your mouth just to get rid of the parts. Obviously you don't want any dust to get into your carburetor. And then you can fit this back. Remember, when you're done cutting for a season, do drain out your chain oil and your fuel. It will really save and give you a much better lasting, longer lasting life on your product. Thank you for watching.